Love makes me treat you the way that I do. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you? There's nothing too good for a girl that's so true. Gee, baby, ain't I good to you? I bought you a fur coat for Christmas, a diamond ring. Hey peeps, Dr. H here. So wanted to give you a little bit of a review to study with for the midterm coming up. Nothing extensive, but just wanted to give you what you're going to have on the midterm. So you might want to, grab a pencil, maybe write this down. You don't have to, but it might be something that's useful to you. So you're going to have pitch recognition. And essentially that's going to be you telling whether two pitches, whether one of them is higher or lower. I think I explained this to most of you at the beginning of the semester. Some people do not have the ability to hear differentiation in pitches, in pitch frequencies. If you're one of those people, don't be alarmed. Doesn't mean you're going to fail, okay? But I just wanted to throw that out there because there are people who cannot hear the difference between a high pitch and a low pitch. It's all going to sound the same to them, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. Then you're going to have the keyboard association with pitches. So it's going to show you a keyboard. It's going to highlight a pitch or highlight a key. It's going to ask you what that pitch is. So like, for example, if it highlights, middle C, you answer middle C. Highlights A flat, you answer A flat, that type of thing. Then you are going to have half steps and whole steps. Knowing the difference between a half step and whole step, not only from the standpoint of the keyboard, which you should be able to tell, right, which is a half step and which is a whole step, from one white key to another white key, provided there's a black key in the middle, whole step. From one black key to a white key, half step. Hopefully everyone's clear on that. If you're not, shoot me an email. We'll talk about it. We'll try to get it clarified for you. And it's also going to ask you about the half steps and whole steps that you would see on the musical staff. So the printed notes that would show you what a half step is. For example, E to F on the staff is a half step, just like it is on the piano keyboard. Also, F to F sharp, that would be a half step. F to G flat, that would be another half step. And harmonically speaking, they'd be exactly the same. That's what's so frustrating sometimes about music, is it is not an exact science. Okay, and then it's going to ask you some questions with respect to rhythm. And you're going to need to know, for example, what notes and rest values are. Know the difference between a whole note and a half note, how long they last. Whole rest, half rest, that type of thing, quarter, eighth, 16th, and so on. The number of flags that each of the smaller durations would have, such as a 16th note has 2 flags and so forth. You can find all this information in your text. I'm also going to give you another couple of tools to use later in this vid that you can also use while you're taking your midterm. The other parts of the rhythm would be time signatures. You need to know what they are, how they function, what the top number is, what the bottom number is. You also need to be able to understand the concept of simple meter. Now, you don't have to go too far down this road, okay? Don't give yourself a headache over this. Simple meter is really just what we've been talking about. 3/4, 4/4 time signatures, that's the extent. So don't worry too much about the type of meter. Worry more about the classification, such as duple, triple, or quadruple. They're going to ask you about. They're also going to ask you about stressed and unstressed beats. So for example, in 4/4 time, you have strong, weak, strong, weak. In 3/4 time, you would have strong, weak, weak. So just review those, take a look at them. You can review those actually quite easily on your online text. Then you're going to have to know about major scales. Now, the big deal with major scales in your book, it talks about several things. It talks about the placement of whole steps and half steps, so understand where they are, but let me just give this to you right now. In any major scale, I don't care where it starts, there's always a half step between the third and fourth degree, and there's always a half step between the seventh and eighth degree. So if you can get that in your head, you're going to do just fine with this. It's not going to be a problem to you. I would encourage you, though, to review major scales. Also, the scale degree names: tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, and leading tone. There are 7 scale degree names that you're going to need to know. So if you don't know what those are, you need to find out. So take a look at your text, find out what they are. And then lastly, major key signatures, okay? That's the last thing you're going to have to know about and be able to identify, and in a very sort of minimal way to construct them, okay? And I'm going to give you a tool later in this vid that will help you do that very much, okay? So I hope everyone isn't stressing out too badly. But before we get into how much you're going to stress, let's talk about what could give you a great deal of stress, and that is the time component. Now, I sent this out in an email, and I also put it on our website with respect to our news, our homepage on our e-learning site. You do have a week to take this midterm, okay? You have from Sunday the 27th to, I believe it's Saturday, March the 5th or 4th. Now, that's kind of misleading, okay? You don't have the whole week to take the midterm, as far as you can start it on Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning and finish it on Saturday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not how this works. I give you that time frame to take the midterm, so that if you need review, if you need to take some extra time and review it, you have up until 11:59 p.m. next Saturday to take this midterm. Once you start the midterm, this is what's important about this. Once you start the midterm, you have 120 minutes, 2 hours to get this done. You have to do it in that time frame. You can't start it, pause it, come back to it later. You've got to do it all within the 2 hour allotted time frame. So be careful with that. That's why I tell you, plan carefully when you're going to take the midterm. Now, if you've been breezing right along and you're doing well, it probably won't take you 2 hours, number one, to do the midterm. But again, you have some time to review. I would encourage you to do so. Let's go one step further with that conversation and talk about my views of standardized tests. I have never been a fan of standardized tests. I've never been a fan of midterm exams or final exams where you're just crunching to get everything in and done on time. That's just not, in my mind, that's just not a fair and accurate assessment of a person's abilities. Just to take a 2 hour time block out of your entire life and say, this is how your whole life works. This is how all of your musical experience is measured in this 2 hours. Well, no, that's dumb. That's stupid. Obviously, things change. Conditions affect us. We could get up in the morning, we'd plan to take the midterm, and anything could happen, right? I know I make the analogy, from Austin Powers, laser beams, sharks with laser beams on their heads, but what I'm saying is anything can happen, and that can affect our performance. So please, do your best, absolutely. I would love it if everyone makes 100, okay? That would be great. But I'm just saying that I don't look at only your score on a midterm or on a final. I consider the whole picture, all of you, and how you've been doing, and if you've been doing. So again, it's really hard to fail my class. You really got to work at it. And the way you work at failing my class is don't do anything. Just don't do anything. Then you'll fail, okay? The way you pass my class, do the work. Do the work, okay? You don't even have to do the work correctly. You just got to do it. Now, that doesn't mean you can just breeze through all the assignments, just sit there absentmindedly, click, 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 click. No, you have to try, okay? Trying, yeah, you got to try. But, This is the way life is. Sometimes we try and we try and we try and we still mess up. I get that, okay? If I see you're trying, if I see you're putting forth an effort, you're going to make an A, okay? So hopefully that's clarifying this whole process enough. So let's take a look at some review tools for you. The first of which I believe is musictheory.net, and then from there some other things for you to consider with respect to review. Check out our e-learning site under the useful tools link, the useful links and tools or something like that. There's some stuff there that will help you out. Don't wallow in misery and despair. Use the tools that are made available to you. Okay? Great. I look forward to our continued discussion topics. These are really exciting. I think you guys are going to like the next one coming up as well. So I hope that you will partake. And remember that the discussion topics are part of our assignments. Take care, folks. See you soon. Greetings again, peeps. So let's take a look at some review with respect to tools that you can use on your own to help you review. Now, if you have the ability to open up a browser, two browsers while you're working on your exam, I encourage you to do so. I used the analogy the other day in my face-to-face lecture of this same class. Let's say you're having brain surgery and your surgeon says to you before you go into the operation, during the consultation with you, he says, I'm a world-renowned surgeon. I have all of this experience under my fingers. I can do this job pretty much with my eyes closed. However, yours is a special circumstance, and I would really like to consult with another professional colleague of mine. He is in Amsterdam, and we can do this via Zoom. I really would like to bring him in on this for his help. Are you honestly going to say to this brain surgeon, nope, you got to do this all on your own, because that's cheating if you use your colleague? Of course not. You're going to hope that he would use every single resource available to him in order to be successful. If this were a school of music and you were all going out and imparting your musical knowledge on little minds, I might have a problem with you not being able to do some things on your own without the benefit of the internet. But these days, folks, use what is available to you. I have no problem with that. So what we're looking at right now is a site called musictheory.net. I do have this link embedded on our e-learning site, so you are free to use it whenever you can. I mentioned a moment ago, if you have the capacity on your laptop or your PC, whichever you're using, to open up two browsers at one time, and you have this one playing on one browser while you're taking your midterm, perfectly fine with me. You know, whatever you have to do. But this is an excellent site to give you one more perspective on what we're learning. Okay, it has everything that we're learning in our own textbook, just presented to you in a different way. When you do this, come over here to lessons, and you can see here on the lesson side everything that we are covering and more. For example, the staffs, clefs, and ledger lines. One of the things that we have to review on, right? You just keep clicking on this play button here, and it's going to go through the entire gambit of what the what the staff lines are for, clefs, what they are, what they look like, the notes to the clefs, and then it's going to give a little discussion on ledger lines in both cases. So I ask you to look at this, to give yourself some review with respect to putting notes on the staff, naming notes on the staff. This is a great tool to help you do that. Now, again, some other things that are on here, note duration, which is one of the things that we need to review. This is going to tell you what they are. It's going to give you their subdivisions, what they're worth, for example. It shows you the entire tree at some point of how all of these fit together. So again, use this. You can review it again and again and again. And again, you probably see here that all of these things highlighted in yellow are simply the descriptions of each of these. So again, I encourage you, use this tool. There's nothing wrong with using this tool. Measures and time signatures, again, another rhythmic component that we have to know about. This is going to show you what a measure is, what a bar line is, what time signatures are, the distinction between the top number and the bottom number, what that means, how that works. So I encourage you, again, please use these tools for your own review. And again, restoration, again, something we're going to need to know about. So just take a look at these, look at the descriptions, look at what it means, look at the correlation between note values and rest values. Remember that a note value is a duration of sound of pitch. A rest is a duration of silence. So again, there you go. Very good tools to use. Dots and ties, something you're going to need to know. So I would go ahead and go over this. Just look at it, what it means. It tells you just about everything you could want to know. Again, just presented to you in a different format. Now, obviously, you can review your textbook. You can go back and review everything that we've talked about, in that you have that time frame of the 27th, I think it is, through March, whatever it is. Let me pull that up here really quickly. Yeah, from March 27th all the way to March 5th, right, at 11:59 p.m. You've got, I wouldn't wait till March 5th to do this, but you've got, some time to review. So please take that time, review, and get yourself prepared for the midterm. And this is the same stuff we've been covering in our online text, just presented to you in a different way. Okay, and it's also got a section on simple and compound meter, and I encourage you to take a look at it. Simple meter is all you're going to be asked to identify with respect to your midterm. Compound meter is going to be coming later. Also, look at the major scale. This is telling you, showing you the order, just like we've discussed in our text. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So there's a half step between the 3rd and 4th degree, and a half step between the 7th and 8th degree. Very good, very useful tool here to show you, demonstrate to you one more way of how major scales are constructed. And then the scale degrees. This is a really cool tool because it shows you not only the scale degrees, but where their position is. Your textbook does too, but this is just showing you in a different way. That's all. And yes, you are going to need to know the scale degrees. So please take the time to review. Give yourself that leg up, if you will. And then there is a section on key signatures. Now, I have no problem with you using this, but just be aware this is going to be a little bit different description as to how we are utilizing key signatures. This is actually showing you a C minor scale. Now, we're not into minor scales yet, okay? So this could be a little bit confusing to you, but C minor uses a specific key signature, and that key signature is the same as a major key. So in this instance, it's showing you the key of D flat, it's showing you a D flat major scale. So by all means, use whatever tools necessary, but just be aware this is a little different, a little bit more of a different take on key signatures, but it does help. And then there is also something called key signature calculation. I would encourage you to take a look at this. This is identifying key signatures by their number. And I'll give you a little bit of a hint here. Most professional musicians will do that. They will look at the number of accidentals in the key signature. If there aren't any accidentals, then that tells us, oh, okay, that's the key of C. If there's 3 sharps, it tells us it's the key of A. If there's 6 flats, it tells us it's the key of G flat. It's just something that we memorize and utilize quite a bit. That's okay for you if you have the time to do that. But understand, this correlates directly to something I'm going to show you in the last part of our review with respect to key signatures, something that we call the circle of fifths. So I would encourage you to look through this and read about it and understand it, understand what it is, how it works, and then maybe learn to apply it in your analysis of key signatures. Something else I will show you with respect to musictheory.net, and that are the exercises. That is the exercises. The exercises, note identification. Click on this. This is asking you what note this is, right? You tell it D, and it'll even play it for you. How about that? This would be an E flat. Hey, there you go. That would be a B flat. Now, let's answer one incorrectly and have it tell us. Nope, it's red. That means it's wrong. So that, of course, is a G flat. And you can do this as often as you want, okay? You can do this again and again and again. So I encourage you, look at these exercises because they can really help you review. Key signature identification. Oh my goodness, look at that. What is this? This is the key of A. This is the key of B. This is the key of D. How do I know this? Well, because I'm magic. No, because I'm a musician and I've studied it. If you had the circle of fifths and order of flats and sharps in front of you while you took this, you'd know too. So please utilize whatever tools you can for success. I have no problem with people using tools to give them a leg up. Scale identification might be something that's a little tricky, but why not? Go ahead and give it a try. This is asking you if this is a major scale or is it a minor scale. If we haven't covered minor yet, but I can tell you right now, if the third is raised, it is definitely a major scale. And it even plays it for you. How about that? This one is also a major scale. Look at that. It is a major scale. Now, this one is a minor scale. Look at the third degree here. It has been lowered. And what kind of minor scale is it? Well, that's a great question. It's actually a natural minor scale. We haven't covered minor yet, so don't stress out if you don't get it right away, but this is an excellent way of review. So I hope these help you, folks, and I sincerely hope that you will also use them. Okay, folks, so let's stop or finish, sorry, our review by talking about key signatures, and we're going to do so by simply looking at a few things here. First of all, let's consider a new tool for you, something that we call the circle of fifths and the order of sharps and flats, and here's what it looks like. Now, I'm going to have copies of this on e-learning in a PDF format so that you can print them off and use them. Yes, you can use them while you're taking your exam. I have no problem with that. As I have explained earlier, I believe everyone should use whatever tools and resources they have available to them to be successful. So this is a tool. You need it to be successful. Okay, so let's look at it in context with exploring a key signature. Let's look at the key of E major. Now we're going to take a look at what E major looks like. This is what it looks like in the music. And you can clearly see there are 4 accidentals there. Those 4 accidentals are key. They're 4 sharps. So we're going to consider the circle of fifths now. And we're going to find out where those 4 sharps come from? Well, let's find the letter E. There it is in the lower right-hand corner of our circle of fifths at the 4 o'clock position, and that 4 is significant because that is the number of sharps associated with the key of E. So there you have it. What 4 sharps are we using? What 4 sharps are we talking about? Well, we're going to use the order of sharps now. And look at that. 4 sharps. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is, the order of sharps, F, C, G, and D. And indeed, those are the 4 sharps for the key of E major. All right, well, let's consider another key, maybe one that's not, a little more complex, okay? Let's consider the key of D flat major. Now, rather than look at the key signature right now, let's try to figure out where the accidentals are, what they are, the number, and where they go. So for us to do this, we're going to use our handy dandy circle of fifths, and we are going to look for D flat. Well, there it is, lower left-hand corner this time in the 5 o'clock position. D flat associated with the number 5. That tells us that we're going to be using 5 accidentals. Which 5 accidentals? Well, let's go over to the order of flats and see which 5 accidentals we're going to be using. Indeed, we're going to be using 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Makes sense, doesn't it? B, E, A, D, and G. And sure enough, when we look at the key signature in the music, there it is. 5 flats. B, E, A, D, and G. Okay, so hopefully that's pretty clear to you. Let's now take a look at C major. Now you might remember from your reading, if you've done any study at all, you may remember that the key of C doesn't have any flats or sharps. The number associated with the letter C, 0. No flats, no sharps. So we don't need to use the order of sharps or flats here because we don't have any. So when we look at the key signature, there ain't nothing there. That's because the key of C does not use flats or sharps. Now you might equate this with the major scale, right? If you play a major scale and you start on C and you work your way up on the piano keyboard, you're not going to be playing any black keys, but you're still going to get a major scale. Any other scale you start to play, you're going to have to use black keys in order to make it work out to be major, and that includes if you start on a black key, right? Okay, so just be aware this is what we're talking about. Now let's consider this circle of fifths and order of sharps and flats in a little bit broader format. Here we go with the same deal. It's the same circle of fifths, but notice that it's got some additions to it. Now we still have a sharp side and a flat side. The sharp side, those numbers you see spinning there, and the flat side, those numbers spinning. Note that C is still at the top in the noon position, still 0. But you also have some key signatures, all of the key signatures rotated around this circle, already written out for you. You also have something called enharmonic scales at the bottom. Don't worry so much about the scales part of it, but focus on the word enharmonic. That's going to become significant for you in just a moment. Let's consider C sharp major, the key of C sharp major. Well, where is that on this circle? Well, it's not where you think. It's in that lower left-hand corner where that number 7 spins in the number 7 position. If this were a clock face, we would expect 7 to be there to the left of 6, and in fact, that's what we're doing. We're just sort of continuing that idea on into the left side of the circle. Notice that it has the same position as D flat, right? So the key of D flat and the key of C sharp major are in the same position on the wheel, and guess what? If you play a C sharp major scale, it's going to sound identical to a D flat major scale. Try not to let this bother you. Don't lose sleep over it. Be more concerned with the number of accidentals rather than what they are at the moment. Don't worry at the enharmonicness of it just yet, but understand that's why these two key signatures are lined up the way they are in on the circle of fifths. There's 7 sharps. Okay, so what does this look like for us? Well, right there's the key of C sharp major printed out. The enharmonic equivalent to it, D flat, is right above. Let's take a look at the order of sharps. Notice there's 7. We're going to use all 7 for this key. So when we bring up the key signature, sure enough, there it is, all 7 sharps, F, C, G, D, A, E, and B, in order to make the key of C sharp major. Okay, well, let's look at another one, C flat major. Still has the same letter name, but it's not C sharp, it's C flat. Well, where is C flat? Well, there in the lower right-hand corner this time. Notice again the number 7 spinning around. That's because there are indeed 7 accidentals, only this time there are 7 flats instead of 7 sharps. We would use all 7 flats for this key signature, and you can see here, there it is, outlined in yellow for you. That's the key of C flat. If we pull up the key signature in a larger format, we can see there all 7 flats are represented, B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. Now once again, this chart is going to be printed up for you or saved for you in a PDF format on our e-learning site, and you are more than welcome to use this as you are taking the midterm. Okay, so now let's take a look at these 3 C's a little differently, all right? C sharp major, C major, C flat major. C major, again, we know, has no flats or sharps, 0, right? There it is up at the top of the wheel, noon position, if you will. Okay, so let's take a look at another one. Let's take a look at the key signature for C sharp major, right? We know from what we just looked at a moment ago, it's going to be using all 7 sharps, right? There they are, F, C, G, D, A, E, and B. Okay, now let's take a look at one more key signature, the key of C flat major. And we also know it's going to be using 7 accidentals. It's going to be using 7 flats. In fact, all 7 flats. So there you go, folks. I hope this has helped you to understand at least the concept of key signatures, and that you have this wonderful tool in the circle of fifths and the order of sharps and flats. And I will have this again on e-learning for you. You can download it, print it off, and yes, you can use it during the exam, no problem. I'm a sentimental sap, that's all. What's the use of trying not to fall? I have no will, you've made your kill, 'cause you took advantage of me. I'm just like an apple on a bough, and you're gonna shake me down somehow. So what's the use, you've cooked my goose, 'cause you took advantage of me. I'm so hot and bothered,